Hello and welcome to, episode 193, I think, of the Nerds at Large Gaming Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Darby Allman.
I'm Jeff Mayo.
You know, people come here for professionalism and a nice buttoned-up podcast that could go right on ESPN.
Yes. So we're here to talk about the new SEC realignment.
Pretty crazy. I could talk for an entire podcast length about that. Yeah. But ladies and gentlemen, we have no freaking time. We have no time to have fun. We have no time for jokes. No time for joy. There's way too much to talk about.
I'll get the jokes in there. Don't worry, folks.
So to kill all joy, we're here to talk about MOBAs.
Yeah.
We are talking about Pokemon Unite right off the jump this week because it is in our grubby little hands. We have been able to play it. Darby's #1 most anticipated game of the year being a Pokemon game, and we have been able to play it. Jeff, what's those initial thoughts?
Pretty great so far.
I agree.
Yeah, it's, we've talked about it before, and now that we actually have it and be able to put more time into it, I would guess probably played about 10 hours, probably.
Yeah, that sounds
roughly.
Yeah,
Maybe
a little under.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Give or take a little bit.
Yeah.
And now that we can play it in English, it's nice to know what's going on. It's like, it's easy to tell now. Oh yeah, just the foundation and the core mechanics of this are very solid as far as short, more casual friendly MOBA goes.
Yes. Yeah, I am very, very impressed. I think it's like, even as excited as we were, there was still some bad avenues I feel like this could go down, like feeling too shallow or just feeling kind of cheap in a lot of ways or whatever. But like, now that we've gotten it, I think it's the best version of what I think this game could have been, in the sense that it's giving me a lot of the same strategic things that I love about League, but it is more accessible, but it's also just different.
Yeah.
It's not all like, it's League, but simple. It's like, there's some vibes and there's some like things that you have to learn to do in this game that are just different than other MOBAs, or at least the one MOBA I played.
Yeah, especially considering a big difference is the 10-minute timer. So yes. Yeah, all matches are just straight up 10 minutes, no matter what. Like, there's a tiebreaker. I don't know if you know this, Darby, in it. It's just if there's a tie in points, which probably doesn't happen too often, but it's whoever scored that amount of points first.
Okay, interesting.
So, that's how they break the tie. So, that obviously means the goal is different, because in League it involves killing something, like destroying something. Getting
to the end, destroying the thing, yeah.
Where this is like, how much points can you score in this time compared to the other team?
Yeah, and it does, I think that 10-minute timer is such a strength of the game in many, many ways. Yeah, just obviously knowing that it's going to be 10 minutes, I can get it in my lunch break and like be fine. Things like that is super nice. But also, I think it gives it its own kind of unique edge about it, in the sense that like when we get to the end, it's kind of cool that it's like, we think we won, but we're not sure. It's like, we score there at the very end. It's like, was that enough to come back? I don't know. And that reveal, we've had multiple times where that reveal was like, we won. We're like, everyone holds their breath and waits for it. And that is definitely a cool thing about it. And I could see that carrying over into if they have more professional matches with money on the line. That little like pause and then boom, hey, that's what we won. Like, that is pretty cool.
Yep.
Yes. And I think the movesets are really impressing me with how everything plays off of each other, and it feels like everyone has a strength and a weakness. I think there is a little bit of overpoweredness going on. Definitely, like Zorora is definitely the prime target. Like, there's some things that work out, but overall, I can already see how you could have completely different types of team comps and win that way. Like, you could go.
We've had kind of similar stuff where, I feel like there's some Pokemon we don't see enough, but it's early on, and there are some Pokemon that are obviously a lot more readily available than other ones have been at this point. Like some like Cramorant, for instance, which is an interesting Pokemon. Less popular Pokemon as far as the Pokemon themselves go, that up to this point you have to choose to buy him to get it. Where the other ones you either get for the battle passes or whatever level shit, or they just give you.
Right. Yeah. And that's definitely going to improve as it goes on. I'm sure the variety of Pokemon that we're seeing and everything. But like, yeah, it's like our roles are definitely very different. Like I've been playing mostly support and everything, and like it's already getting really cool just when to attack, when to heal, like flying over as Eldegoss, like when to like gank different things. And then like you're over there tearing up shit with Gengar, like doing the speedy things.
Dude, Gengar is one of those things where I worry, like I haven't seen it happen to us, so we'll have to see how that goes when I'm on the receiving end of it. But that Sludge Bomb Hex combo is just too good, man. Point's like, man, are they gonna nerf this shit?
It sounds fun too, though. Yeah. Just the stacking the things on top of each other, and you know what you,
Yeah, I have read some impressions where people are like, yeah, once people get kind of more used to it, that Gengar strategy may not be as good, because there's stuff you can do to get away for, like there's an item called like eject button or something at that point where it sounds like you can get away pretty quickly.
Oh yeah.
And other ways like that you can do if people are smart and kind of know it's coming.
Yeah, I mean I'm hoping that's the fun thing about this game, is definitely the thing with League where you find something that keeps working and then people figure out how to do that, so then you have to go back to the drawing board and figure out, I'm going to start doing this in this situation. It's like, oh, that works, and then that gets figured out, and that's kind of the way that, I don't know, that loop is just satisfying of doing that and everything.
Yeah, for different strategies, it is kind of, but looking at how our games the last time we played kind of evolved to mainly like you and Alex and probably whatever random fit person we got kind of wrecking stuff at the bottom lane, while Olivia and I were at top, kind of scoring points and stuff, but mainly just making sure they did not score with our Venusaur Snorlax combo.
Right, and that's like, I'm glad it's not just like go balls to the wall chaos the whole time. There's definitely a controlled thing about where if you're fighting a 2v3, you need to back off some and like lose slowly, because like if you're fighting a 2v3, that means the other side, it probably has an advantage. You probably are fighting 3v2 over there, so if you can just like slow down their progress enough, then you basically won, because like theoretically.
Yeah, and I think for all of us, it's kind of, we've learning more like when to kind of advance to go towards their goal and when to kind of stay back.
That's what, even with like 1 weekend or however long we've played, like not that long in the grand scheme of things,
5 days,
like you can really tell there's a big difference. I think if you went back and watched our first game to our last game, where we were just like running in there immediately to score, and then we got punished enough times to realize, like, okay, the respawn timers are way too fast early on to do that. You need to slow down the pace of the game a lot more. Which, like, I just think it has good bones. I think this game has very good bones.
Yeah. Well, for that, something I just kind of realized when I was watching Kyle Bossman stream it is, it's one of those things that are just on the screen that I just never looked for. The enemies' respawn timers are at the top. So when you know that it's this particular person coming to the lane, you should pay attention to that too. Because at least a lot of the games we have right now, for the most part, it's both teams kind of splitting off, and there are at least like 2 people that are always going one direction. So like if there's a Pikachu and a Greninja going to the top facing us the whole time, if I see that they're still in respawning, it's like, okay, I should be able to do it.
Yeah,
that's probably when I should advance.
That's a good call. I really should have been paying attention to that for sure.
I don't know if it's one of those things that I didn't pay close enough attention that it, like a lot of things, they're just stuff that I unlock over the match over time. Maybe it starts at some point. I'd be interested to see like immediately, like something I'll look for, like, okay, does it start at a certain point in time, or is it in like the whole match?
It might be the whole match. I mean, League always has that, but it's like they're not, like Pokemon United is so short. So that's the thing. League, you have a while and you're doing a bunch of other things, so it's not as big of a deal of knowing exactly when they spawn back. But in Pokemon United, it's like there's many times we would win a team fight and go and score, and then they would immediately kill us, because if you try to fight someone at their tower when you're already half health, you're just dead, because they can heal themselves.
So Snorlax at your own tower, ooh baby, ooh. Especially early on when you have rest, ooh. Crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of satisfying things in there, like that Snorlax smash definitely looks
heavy slime.
Very satisfying.
Oh yeah, especially when they're trying to run away. I'm like, nope. You did.
I'd love to see. It really seems like you're getting really into the strategy of a lot of things for it being your first MOBA really like this. And I mean, I'm not surprised. I really am not. Like, I think you would be and will be very good at this type of game.
I hope so. Yeah, and earlier before Dari came back from work, I was testing through all the Pokemon that I hadn't yet in practice mode to see what fit me, mainly because I did that with Gengar. It's like, oh, this seemed very useful. Then I used my coins to buy him. It's like, okay, yeah, this is working out very well.
Yes. It's
that. Not often in these multiplayer games where there are games where I get the most kills.
But you definitely were like, you were like destroying people. And that's like such a satisfying thing when it's a character you didn't really think you would like or whatever, and you try and then you actually go crazy with it. That's really fun.
It's one of those things where you got to kind of ignore sometimes the difficulty level thing they have there.
Yeah.
And sometimes the role, because Expert Speedster, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be playing that. There we go.
I think, it's not a perfect science at all. And I think sometimes like they're kind of thinking of probably someone who's like, this is their first video game, it's like they might be like, well, the concept of putting poison and then doing hex, it's like, well, that's a 2-step thing. Like that's hard, I think sometimes it's like it's hard to put a number.
Yeah, and like as far as Speedster, it's kind of messing around just a little bit. I would think Talonflame was maybe more difficult than a novice character.
I didn't know,
just because of how squishy it is.
Yeah, true. Yeah, very true.
And how much, you got to be moving around with that character.
For sure. Those high mobility but very squishy. Like, if you sit still. I mean, I think that's how those type of characters are probably how people get discouraged and quit the game. I mean, that definitely in League, I got close to that because I started playing Soraka immediately, and she is like maybe the most squishy character in all of League. So it's like you got to be staying back and like moving constantly. But yeah, it's real fun. It is really, really good. And like the fact that this is the start of the game, and I think that like a few years from now, it's gonna be like this is gonna look like tiny in comparison to what it probably becomes as far as how many new characters and new maps, because that's a thing that this game will have.
That's the thing that they are looking at. There are a couple other maps in it. I guess we can talk about that just real quick because we did play a couple matches of those. The little quick rounds where it's like 3v3, 4v4 smaller maps.
Yeah.
Need to play more to see exactly how I feel, but they seem fun. I like the one when we did the 3v3 in the park map, just because of how different that map is, just visually, and the fact that it has the conveyor belts on there.
Yeah.
So, I want to do the ice. There's like a ice city 4v4 map that whenever we just have gone on, it's just not available.
Yeah, that is a bummer. Is it like it's on a rotation? The rotation seems way too long. It's like a full day, right, or something. It's like. Yeah, I wish that would be a little better. But overall, I think the like 3v3, 4v4. Did we ever play a 3v3? Or did we only play?
That was the park one.
That was the park one. Was 3v3. Okay. I think it is definitely. It's like a fun diversion. It's like a little more chaotic, a little more silly, or whatever. But it's not like so silly. Like, League has some like wacky modes that I just don't have any interest in playing. I think this is not that wacky, but it is like. A little like more casual, which is cool.
Yeah, because if people don't know, the stuff that's left in 5v5 is 5 minutes, so it's half the time, and you're leveling up and all that stuff faster.
Yeah, very short, but very, very cool. But I'm hoping that we get a fair amount of like more 5v5 maps, because I would like they are meant to be like a competitive map, just like the one we're playing now.
If data mining is to believe, but Dari, before we get into the future, I do want to bring up this one thing as far as the gameplay goes: Zapdos.
Oh yes, yeah. Simultaneously cool, but probably needs some tweaks.
Yes, people who don't know, at 2 minutes in the map. Or 2 minutes left in the match, when the timer gets to 2 minutes, Zapdos appears in the middle of the map.
Yes.
And it's just a big boss monster, and everyone can attack it. And whoever the player who gets the last hit on it, it's that player's team gets a whole bunch of points and everything. And on the opposing goals, or the goals that that team scores on, you can pretty much score instantaneously. It has a little timer thing to show that. And also, generally, when it hits the 2 minute mark, all points you score are doubled.
Yep.
So if you play your cards right with Zapdos and everything, you'll have 5 people scoring 100 points each. where a lot of matches that are really close usually end around 400, give or take. I would say.
Yeah, probably.
The ones that are close and not like complete domination.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so it's like most of the time Zapdos is the golden snitch. It is the thing that decides the match one way or the other. Like, you have to have a pretty damn big lead to lose a Zapdos and still win the game.
Or somehow stop them from, like, if someone gets it, then stop them from somehow scoring all those points, which you can kill, but the problem is
they can do either side.
Well, they can do either side, and the fact that it's instantaneous, or pretty much instant. So even if you get there and you're contesting them, if you just don't hit them for a second, it's in.
Right.
Which is kind of ridiculous. So I think somehow they need to kind of tweak that a little
element
bit.
of this needs to change. It needs to either be like harder to score, or it does slightly less. Or I've said multiple times, and I still don't know if it's a good idea, but I mean, like, I just think maybe the Zapdos should appear slightly before the double points come, so that you have to, like, should we go score it right now while it's easy, or do we have to sit on this until the double points? Like, there's some sort of, like, risk reward, and if we're gonna sit on this or go, because, like, right now it's just like, if you get Zapdos and you, like, split up and go to each side, it's like, even if some of you die, like, half of you at least are gonna score, and it gets to be kind of. You just hate the feeling that, like, the whole game really comes down to this one thing. It's like that's a feeling you probably want to kind of avoid. I mean, you still have to have kept up with points, but in a lot of ways, if you're having an average game or a slightly below average game, and then you get Zapdos, you probably won. Yeah. And there's not enough time after Zapdos for the losing team to make up ground. Like, Zapdos pretty much happens at the end. Yeah,
because odds are if you get if you lost Zapdos, most if not all your team is dead, and at that point the cooldown time, like the death time or whatever before you come back respawn, is pretty long.
And you're already like 20, you're under 2 minutes when Zapdos starts, so it's like you're dealing with, like, less than a minute, and it's like there's nothing you can really do in less than a minute. So I don't know if he just needs less points or something. I think, like, I like Zapdos. I mean, it brings everyone together. It's this hype thing at the end, but maybe just a tad less.
There are ways to do that, because, like, other maps are going to have something similar. Because the 3v3 map, I can't remember if the 4v4 one had it. We did it, but might have just been Zapdos. Because it was just kind of the normal map, but smaller.
Yeah.
The 3v3 map had Regigigas in the middle, which was cool. Like, that's one of those gonna be a fun thing about these maps is, and it seems like, at least compared to League, they're, actually has different maps. So they're willing to experiment with this, and just more way to get, more Pokemon in there, kind of mix things up. And speaking of more Pokemon, we do know more are coming, and we've done some data mining on all that kind of stuff, and it's...
Jeff hacked the Pokemon company.
I personally did it. But we know Blastoise and Gardevoir are coming. Blastoise is a defender, Gardevoir is an attacker. So that'll be fun. I'm interested in Blastoise because it's sounding like he might be more offensive based defender, maybe, based on his move list I saw.
Well, the contradiction, offensive based defender.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm interested to see that. Gardevoir probably had some tricky stuff in there, I imagine.
Yeah.
Or maybe more similar to Ninetales and being a more supporty.
That's what I would. That's what I would assume, is that she's gonna have some, like, buffs or slow speed.
Because Gardevoir and Ninetales were both ones when I saw them on the list, like, oh, they'll probably be like support, or I didn't expect them to be the attackers.
We just thought there was gonna be more supports. Period. There's just not.
Well, the good news is the one afterwards, which we know 100% is happening. Though not officially confirmed, but it's Blissey. From Gen 2, the evolved form of Chansey. So Chansey will be playable as well for the first couple levels, and people have. Data mine recently, it's moveless. I'm not going to go read over all of it, but it's kind of what I expected when I saw Blissey as a support character. It's a tanky support that, like Eldegoss has a bunch of healing moves. Or not a bunch of them, but it has healing moves and then some other buffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think Eldegoss will probably forever and always be the biggest healer or whatever, that has the most healing output, but, like, you sacrifice other things. He doesn't have stuns and things like that, so it's like, this sounds like more of a hybrid, but, like, definitely, like, the other one, it's definitely, it's all support. It's just different types of support, basically.
Yeah, like Wigglytuff and Mr. Mime, from what I can tell, aren't necessarily like buff supports or the like.
Yeah,
where Eldegoss and Blissey are more like, my stuff mainly affects my teammates,
right,
making them stronger and everything. Because Blissey has like ultimate is just a mega buff for a teammate.
Yeah.
So I can imagine, I can only see the scenarios where, I don't know, you do that on Garchomp and he uses his Unite move.
Yeah.
And you just rack up damage.
Oh, yeah.
You just take off Zapdos in 2 seconds.
Yeah, I know. I think she sounds great to me. I think she sounds like an immediate pickup for me, my support ass.
Yeah, I'm eyeing her a lot too because, well, I've been playing Gengar and Snorlax or whatever. I do want to get support in there if Darby wants to bounce off and we just kind of have that. Fun. But we also have some other stuff that have leaked. This stuff is kind of taken more with a grain of salt. Haven't seen this in many places, and sometimes with these games, even if it's data mine, it may not be used.
Yeah.
But next 2 playable characters apparently maybe after Blissey or Sylveon and Greedent from Gen 8.
Everyone's favorite.
Yep.
So y'all expected.
Don't recognize those names. Sylveon is the fairy Eevee evolution, so Eevee will be playable. This is the evolution we'll be getting in the game. And Greedent is that big puppy squirrel from
big old cheeks.
Sword and Shield.
Big old cheeks.
Yep. Which are very interesting pick. Sylveon, not very surprising again. Eevee was going to get this game no matter what.
Yes.
So I guess
now it's just a question: is that it, or will they not be afraid to put in multiple evolutions as different characters? That would be the question.
I can actually see, like, the more like I play it and think about the way the actual you getting moves works, I can see it. I could see pretty much I don't know what Sylveon's moveset is, but probably one of the attacks is Swift, because for some reason that's always an Eevee move. And something else, maybe, I don't have an example, maybe Bite or something. Like all the forms, those are their first 2 moves and they all start the same, but and then they immediately change, branch
off into,
so it's kind of like the same idea, but they act like I had with our Unite video in a way, but it's you picking the character and they just have these
it's more simple forms. They probably won't do as many of them, but like I could see that it probably wouldn't be something they do like anytime immediately. I would think
it's one of those things where I'll be like, won't be surprised it happens. It's like, and after a little while, like you said, like I can see this coming. Potentially.
But
in Green, I don't know what's gonna happen with that fucker.
I just love it. I loved it. The whole like we're gonna do some weird picks is not something that was just for the base roster. It's like, nope,
immediately.
Expect there to always be the chance of like you're never gonna fully know what's happening. Like there's gonna be some obvious ones, but then there's gonna be some fucking left fields.
And just real quick before we move on, there was also a data mining list of Pokemon potentially for stages. I'm going to try to maybe destroy some dreams.
All right. That's what we're here to do on this podcast.
These Pokemon were already in the database that are probably going to be used for new stages. Articuno, obviously in a Zapdos-like role.
Yeah.
Victini, Jirachi. I'm curious what their role is. They're little tiny mythical Pokemon. They're like legendary Pokemon, but just smaller and different in a way. So I'm curious what they're going to do there. Carnivine makes sense. It's just a big Venus flytrap Pokemon. That makes perfect sense for a mob. Tauros, it's another bull Pokemon.
Okay.
Toxicroak, which I had on my presentation to you, makes sense for a mob. Would have liked it to be playable. Nidoking, kind of the same. Nidoking would have been cool. Venonat makes sense. We saw Venomoth in the park stage.
Okay.
It's evolution. Joltik, just a little electric spider thing. Galvantula, Aegislash.
Yep.
Which
that could have been a character for sure.
Xerneas, giant deer thing, legendary that's gonna pop up in the middle for sure.
Yeah.
And Toxapex. Oh wait, that's not all. Toxapex, Jimmy Buffett from our Nuzlocke.
Of course, as everyone knows.
Yes. Probably gonna play a Dreadnought role because it has high defense. Probably just be hard to kill.
Yeah, just to get some
and poison you and all that.
Yeah.
And then Stuffle and Pikachu are also on here. So Noverware.
Pikachu.
Yeah. It's you might remember from when you watched me play Pokemon Snap, it's like this little thing that had the giant hand come out of its mouth and grabbed an apple.
Okay, yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
Makes sense from Pokemon.
And it grabs you and sucks you in.
Yes. So yeah, those are Pokemon that might be deconfirmed for the roster.
Sad on that part, but cool. You get a bunch of representation of a lot, like between the infield and playable. There's gonna be a lot of Pokemon represented by this game.
And they're not gonna run out anytime soon.
Oh no, God no.
And then as the game continues, those would be more Pokemon made to use.
With how much we're looking forward to this, and like how much it seems like the rollout's probably gonna keep coming on pretty fast. Like, expect to hear a good bit more about this game.
Yeah, and I'm curious about the popularity of it because with the 10-minute thing, I've seen a lot of people who don't care for MOBAs or jumped off MOBAs. That's like a while ago, or like, oh, I'm back in because it just how quick this stuff is.
It is nice. It's very in and out. It's pretty sweet. Well, Jeff, will you be in and out of Cristales, or are you here to stay?
Here to stay, Darby. I'm here to stay.
All right, he's gonna see the tale of Chris.
Yep. Yep. I didn't realize it until it's important in the game, and then like closely afterwards, some in-game character made a joke about it. I'm curious if there's some meaning to this. The main character is named Cristales.
Yeah.
And one of the party members is called Christopher.
Yeah, I played the first like 20 minutes of the game in there, so I did get to that. I'm like, oh, okay, Chris.
Not all party members have Chris in their name.
Yeah, I was worried. I was like, when I got the second one, I was like, are they all gonna be Chris something? Like, I'm Chris Fonzo.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, carry on.
So yeah, you have all that. For people who don't know what this game is, it is a Japanese or JRPG inspired game, old school JRPG styled game. Battle system is very reminiscent of like Super Mario RPG and the like. In that way, the timed attacks where you got to time your attacks, and it does. If you hit at the right time, you do more damage, and if you're being attacked and you time at the right time, you take less damage, which is very important.
Yeah. I don't really like that very much, because I mean it just seems like a way of like trying to hide the monotony of it, but there's not really much to it. You're just like hitting a bunch, timing it or whatever. Like it's like trying to be fake active when it's not really, and I kind of wished it would just not, like, I don't know, that's just me. Like, I'd wish it would just be turn-based at that point, because it's like, just doing that just doesn't really do much for me. It's like, oh shit, I didn't hit the thing. It's like you have to constantly be paying attention to hit A at this right time. It's just not the most engaging thing for me. I'm
generally a fan of it as a Paper Mario fan. I've been doing it my whole life.
Gotcha.
With these games, so I am used to it. Yeah, I do get what you're saying though, because this just happens in all these games where once you know the timing on a lot of these things, you just kind of like, okay, now I just gotta have to pay
it's
attention.
Just monotonous muscle memory at some point.
Yeah, as far as throughout the game, the challenge of it is when you get new spells or attacks, and when you're facing new enemies or new moves, is finding the timing and that kind of stuff. I'm getting the more hang of it now, but definitely some enemies that had strange movement first, like, I don't know when to press it. Oh no, I pressed the wrong time. Oh, big damage.
Big damage. Yoshi coming in here sitting on you.
Yoshi. So we'll continue on the combat. I will say, unfortunately, in that first boss fight, I don't know if you beat, probably not in 20 minutes.
No, yeah.
The one I mentioned from the demo where you got to do the whole make them wet and then send them in the future and all that kind of stuff.
Make them wet.
Yep. Yeah. Wet them up and then send it to the future. So they're all rusty. Unfortunately, so far in fights since then, that's not as big of a thing. Like, you could still do stuff. There is a mage you get later on, not too long after that boss fight you saw, where he sends like little tree seedling little people things out, and you can either make it instantaneous so it hits one enemy, or you can have them plant a group of them and it affects all enemies on that side after a certain amount of time. So you can plant them and then send them into the future, and then they all pop up and do the thing. Or what you can do is you can poison someone, and poisoning like in any other thing, they take damage every turn. Or you can send them to the future, and they take all the built-up poison damage at once, and it's just one big attack.
Okay. Nice.
But unfortunately, when it comes to boss fights, that's not as big of a thing with the time stuff. Okay. And even after a point right now, with the characters and everything, I didn't like grind or anything. I'm just beating enemies that like come, but it's not difficult for the most part. So I haven't really had to use the time stuff, which is very unfortunate.
Yeah, because it kind of seems like that's the game's thing.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it seems very traditional.
Yeah, it is very traditional. You see the roles that like the people have, and there's still like some cool things to do with the whole you're in the middle with people side by side, and you're sending them the future and past and stuff. That's still a thing that you have to do sometimes, or makes them match easier to do and maybe take less damage or stuff to do in regular battles. But in boss battles, I haven't had much of a need to do.
That sucks.
Yeah, or at least it doesn't feel like it as you have to do that battle. Like you can't beat that battle, that first boss fight, without doing it. And even then, you're going to get beaten up. Other ones haven't really had to do it.
Yeah, and you don't want the boss battles to be the ones where you abandon your cool gimmick.
Yeah, it would. I mean, I understand that they didn't want to do it for every boss fight. To have some of them just kind of being a straight up brawl. Yeah. But I do wish some of the bigger ones were more kind of puzzly like that. Like, okay, got to figure out, this isn't working. What do I need? Like, what combination of stuff do I need to do?
Yeah, I'll say from looking at reviews and like a little bit from what I've played, but I really didn't play enough to like really know. But so mostly from reviews, I don't really think this game's going to be for me. I think the combat is way too not interesting to me. I think for to really like hold my attention right now. It's like I mean, I've been very, very clear about like just kind of getting bored with a lot of games. I think this is just a game that probably would not really keep me going, keep the old engines going, for me.
Yeah, at least for me right now, the combat's still fun. I have heard this, it gets a really like, not necessarily like you need to grind, but it kind of wears out its welcome towards the end, like the final stretch.
What I've heard from everyone, and I already just didn't think it looked very interesting from the beginning, so I'm like, I couldn't get to the end. It's like I don't think I'd have the patience for it.
Yeah, right now it's keeping my interest in all that, even if it is a little easy. It's kind of weird reading it leading up or before I actually played the game. Some opinions and stuff, because there was some people saying like, oh, the beginning is hard, or I've been having trouble throughout this game or something, and some like, oh, I'm just breezing through. It's like, where am I going to stand? It's like, oh, I'm on the more of the easy side for sure. The point where I'm like, why are you guys having so much trouble?
A bunch of casual babies out here, Jeff said.
Yeah.
Just so y'all, bunch of...
Well, I understand the first boss, because that one took me a couple tries, just because I had to get the time. Like, there's one attack in particular that does so much damage, and because of the early game, you only can have so many resources, like just items and stuff.
Yeah.
So the timing on that one was weird compared to most of the other ones, so I kept on missing it. And Cristales took some damage. So yeah, but after that, it was pretty smooth sailing overall.
Nice.
But yeah, as far as the rest of the game, though, very charming art style and all that.
It is pretty. Very
something then a simple thing that I just kind of like doing when I go to different places with the whole way the screen split up is seeing how the future and the past look with these characters, and like when you're scrolling through, it's like, oh, this character's not here in the past for some reason, whether because they're too young or just whatever, or go to the future, it's like, oh, you're gonna die in like 10 years.
Oh no,
the next 10 years. Because you just disappear. And all that. And it's fun seeing primarily like in some story thing, but in sometimes side quests, you do something, and depending on the severity of it, it will change the timeline. So like in one town in the future, it was completely flooded. Like
okay, that's cool.
It's completely underwater, so you couldn't even send your little frog friend that you can send to the past or future that way.
Interesting.
But then you did a quest, and someone who died survived, who would fix the problem.
Nice.
So it's just like everything changed. Everyone's there in the future. It looks nicer and stuff.
Yeah,
and
cool.
There was like one story choice at one point. where there are 3 choices. I'm curious to see what the difference is, but once you did it, it just had a little scene where it just slid over to the future and like the whole town changed and everything just looked nicer and all that.
Okay, that whole element of like storytelling element is cool.
Mm-hmm. I will like, there are times when it comes to kind of with the combat stuff, necessarily like I really like the general idea of the combat with the turn-based and the time thing and stuff. I wish they did a little more with it. I guess we'll see how they do it in some of the future fights and all that. But also with the exploring the world and stuff, like seeing all that kind of stuff is cool. And there's even some stuff like you see treasure chests in the future and past, so you got to send your frog there to grab it, and you just got to keep your eyes open and all that. But I wish there were more like puzzles or like around it or something where you gotta send more than just, oh, that's there, send Froggy.
Yeah, that's the other thing I've seen from a lot of reviews. It does seem like a cool concept, but it seems a little shallow in implementation.
Yeah, and it's one of those things like, yeah, I'd had high hopes for this game. It's kind of below, but I'm really liking the game though.
Yeah.
But it's just like with those examples and just the dungeon design, it's just pretty simple, just kind of simple backgrounds and stuff. They're random encounters, and there's not even really a splash screen. You just suddenly go to an all white load screen.
Yeah.
To go into the battles. So there were some times where I'm close to the edge of the maps, like, did I go into the next area or am I in a battle? And then I see, okay, I'm in a battle. Those moments just kind of had to remind me, like, this is a small team.
Yeah.
This is a small team that, honestly, with the art style of all this and the ideas for it, pretty ambitious project.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they have a good, like, little core here and good ideas to where if Cristales is successful enough, they can definitely build on that.
Yeah.
They just didn't completely meet it here, but still made a very fun game.
I'm not even saying that this is the way they should have gone because, who knows, you probably lose a lot of other people that way, but, like, I almost wish that they had just ditched the combat and just made this like a really, really cool puzzle game with like a really cool story that involves like traveling forward and back in time and everything. Just because to me, it's just like the combat is just like the least interesting element, like even at play here, because they went so traditional with it that it was just like, yeah, I wish that was just kind of scrapped and you had more time to just be like, let's just like really explore this. Well, like how the story changes when you go back and forth and just like implement more gameplay into that and less gameplay into a very traditional, been done 1,000 times. Like, well, I mean,
honestly, the as far as the combat and stuff, I think it's obviously a pays tribute to the JRPGs are old, but the time stuff gives it enough of a hook, especially with the length of the game, to where I think that was fine enough. The problem is that the game, at least in my experience, is kind of easy, so I'm not using the mechanics to the fullest and not necessarily being the pressure.
You can kind of basically just play it like a normal.
Yeah, if it was difficult where I felt like I had to use all the stuff there, then I would feel a whole lot better of it. It's kind of be more traditionally in nature. But with the time gimmick, I think would have been fine.
Is there a difficulty option?
Not that I know. So I honestly, as far as again the combat, I feel like the core of it is fine. It's just the difficulty of it. Just having a kind of basic-y turn-based thing with the, it's a time game with the timing of the attacks and stuff to power up, take less damage, and all that. Again, if I felt like I had to use the time stuff more.
Yeah, it definitely didn't seem bad. It's just I don't think I have the patience for it, really. A busy work life coming home, I just don't really want to play that. I don't know, it wasn't grabbing me.
As I will, before moving on, talk about characters and story real quick. It's a pretty basic story overall. Characters are charming.
Yeah.
Voice acting is kind of.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay. Yeah. It's not great. Yeah. Maybe not even good. It's serviceable, Yeah. That's the other thing is the characters just seem like the most like just kind of basic fantasy characters. It was like, okay, it's like
it is some cool stuff with the story as far as where I just did one thing with Christopher and kind of going to his story with like the town he grew up with was pretty cool. And then I'm going I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. With the other party member I've had going to where he lived for a hot minute and seeing his story and that kind of stuff's been cool. But yeah.
Yeah.
No, pretty solid. Characters are charming. Art style is good.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've played another 2021 game. Me, Darby.
I thought you didn't do that anymore.
I thought I didn't either, but the lad still got it. Old dog new tricks. I've been playing Overboard, which is indie game. I'm assuming indie game that came out in 2021. I don't know when it came out, sometime earlier this year. And I just started hearing a bunch of podcasts talk about it to the point where I'm like, all right, fine, I'll try it. And it was mostly me and my sister finished Return to Obra Dinn, so we wanted another game, and that was really fun playing this puzzle solving indie game. And I had heard about this and I told her about it, and she's like, yeah, sure, let's get it. And it's like, I don't even know what the game looks like. I've just heard it. I've just heard the concept. So it's like, I really hope it's good. And turns out it is very good. This is a game that is primarily text based, but it does have a really cool art style where it's somewhat visual novel-esque in not in the way it doesn't really look like panels like you would expect it, but you're seeing a person and another person you're talking to, and you go to different areas and it's just kind of like a static image, but it has a really cool art style, so it looks cool, but it's definitely mostly text. You play as this woman who you're in 1920s or 1800s, something like that, England coming over into America. And you're playing this woman on this ferry cruise ship thing, and the very start of the game you throw your husband overboard. And it turns out your husband's a real piece of shit, so don't feel bad. You throw your husband overboard. And that's the very start of it. And then you wake up the next morning and you're having to go through the whole day trying to basically get away with murder. So every action you do takes up time. There's when you go to different sections of the boat, it'll show you how much time will go by, and at the very end there's going to be everyone gathers and they're like, okay, we got to figure out who did this. So you very quickly figure out that you threw him overboard, and there's certain people that saw certain things. The lookout guy knows that you were on the deck that night. So you can't lie about not being there, and there's someone else who saw him go overboard out of their window, so someone else knows that he went overboard, and someone else heard a splash. So it quickly gets to it okay, so we have to piece together what we're gonna tell everyone so that our story connects, or we're gonna lie to the right people so they won't find it out from each other. And it gets very, very cool, and they slowly you slowly learn things. You go through the first loop, and you're always going to lose pretty much the first loop because you're not going to know what's going on. And you get to the end, and we were lying about we never saw him up there last night. We haven't seen him since last night. Who knows, or whatever. And then one guy said, well, I found your earring up on deck this morning, so you were definitely there last night. And we're like, fuck. And so then the next time we got out of bed and made a beeline for the front deck, and we got the earring before he found it. So it's okay, there's a bunch of little things like that you figure out by
but unfortunately what I'm getting out of this, you can't get away with this murder by committing more murder.
I don't know, we haven't got to everything. Who fucking knows? This lady definitely has questionable morals in a great way. She's definitely a femme fatale. Her name is Veronica Villancy. It's really the game is very, I know the game is very funny. It has a really good sense of humor, because there's I don't want to spoil too much, but there's also the lookout guy. You could be honest with him and tell him exactly what happened, and as long as you sleep with him, he's just trying to get in your pants. He just wants to get laid. So we seduced him.
I was thinking about when you're telling him talking to people, I was like, is it going to be that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at first we were seducing him to get his key pass or whatever, and we did that. But then later on, we learned that it's he straight up knows. It's he just doesn't care. He just wants to get laid. He doesn't give a shit. So it's and there's you learn a lot of this about everyone. And it's really cool because we did get away with it one time. We got to the end and we didn't get convicted and everything. So it's like we won, but then it got to the end and it's like you and someone else is talking, and it's basically like, yeah, but you didn't get any of his money because we convinced everyone that he committed suicide. So they're like, you didn't get any of his money or whatever. If you could have framed someone else, you would have gotten like his whole inheritance or whatever. Like, I don't even know if that's true, but that's just what they said. So it's like, then you go back up to the start, and now it's like you're trying to get away with it like in a different way, like in better, like trying to like could frame someone else or do something. Like there's a lot of different ways apparently you can.
And I imagine like as you go through it, even if you succeed, it's like, okay, at least with the time stuff, it's like, okay, I can do more stuff if I do it in this way,
right?
Probably.
Yeah. You become a lot more efficient, or you try different things. And like whenever we started the run after we got away with it, they gave us more story information that like puts everything into context more. We're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And you learn like all these people on the ship kind of have secrets. Like that there's secret things going on in the background, and like we got into someone's room the last time before we stopped, and it's like there's like some things that we like got in there and learned some things about some people where we're like, oh fuck, this is getting crazy.
Yep, Darby got me interested in this game.
It's cool. It's definitely cool.
But I only have one of those loop mystery things at a time. But I haven't been talking about it, but I am almost done with No Sea, I think.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you were still.
Oh, yeah. I've been chipping away at that every once in a while, playing a couple runs over here now.
Nice, yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, this probably is a similar type part of your brain that this is operating on.
So once I get done with that, I might get Overboard. Because I partly it's like check to see how long to beat.
I don't think it's long,
Yeah, it says 4 hours. I mean, with not too many things, like 4-ish hours on here. I was going to ask you, like, if you knew about how long it took you to get through that first run.
Probably like at most 2 hours. It was probably like an hour and a half, 2 hours or something, probably. Cool. I would say. I mean, we started it one night and only played a little bit and finished it the next time.
And I'm all for really cool, interesting short games.
Yes, yeah, no. I think this is one everyone should pick up. Okay, I think it's cheap. I think it's only like $20 or something. And yeah, I think it's very satisfying, and it takes some thought, but it's not something that's gonna stump you forever. It's like
at the very least, with the way it's 15 on Steam right now.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah. But I'd probably want to get on Switch. But yeah, especially with this kind of game, 15 on Switch as well.
Okay. I probably did pay 15. I forgot what I paid.
Yeah. Interesting one about this kind of game is even if you're failing and stuff, you're at least making some progress in a way. You're at least learning something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's one of those you're meant to fail at first, and failing is like part of the fun. Like if you did it the first time, then you're missing out on some really cool, funny dialogue of failing. It's like and it's one of those I'll definitely look on YouTube to see all the different things that could happen if we didn't miss any of it, because there's definitely, and you can also see that when you highlight different sections of the ship, you can see who is going to be there in that scene and who's leaving in that scene. So there's some people that like we didn't even notice. We looked at a certain part of the ship and we're like, what the hell are you doing there? And it's like, you were just why the hell are you? And then you go there and you learn something else. So it's cool.
I think it's one of those games that won't be on many based on the number of reviews, but will sneak up on some Game of the Year's list because it's at 88 on OpenCritic.
Yeah. I just started hearing so many people talk about it, like podcasts say like this is a hidden gem this year, and I heard several people say it, and I was like, it just sounded too cool. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, it's definitely gonna be on my list for whatever my list means. But it's like I think it's a very cool game.
Yes. Also, sorry, Darcy, just real quick. This is not related to the podcast, but Lemnis Gate comes out soon. I don't know if you saw the easy update on it.
I did not.
The game looks very interesting. I'm still confused by it, but it looks entertaining.
Okay.
For people in general, just try to look up footage for that game.
All right.
Have a little more understanding for it. But Darby, I now also have a full understanding of our marriage and why it failed.
I do. But then, did we rekindle it?
Oh, no. Well, I guess so. We beat It Takes Two, finally.
Yeah, we rekindled it.
Yeah.
Our marriage is better than ever.
Yeah.
And the game of the year of 2021 is better than ever right now because this is mine right now.
Yeah.
Like, let's fucking go, dude.
Yeah, I think it's mine too.
Yeah,
as of right now. Sorry, RE8.
Yeah. Sorry, Ratchet. Move aside. Final Fantasy too. I mean, it was only 3.5 hours. No, this game is something special.
Yes,
it really is.
Yeah, just as you go through the whole thing and how they mixed up the gameplay and the areas and all that kind of stuff, we were always like surprised at what was going on and just laughing and all that. And we've talked about me and you want these co-op games, and someone with this Hazelight doing this and focusing on this in the way they did is just great to see. And I'm glad to see they're being rewarded for it.
Yes, I agree. I think they have like A Way Out definitely proved there's like a market here, and it was like I think that game has a lot of flaws, but there was a lot of people, us included, that like looked past the flaws more than we do in maybe some other games because it was just something so unique and something that we had not really experienced very much before. There's like very dedicated 2-player co-op thing, and everything is built around we're gonna make these two people work together. It was so cool that we were like, it's like, yeah, it had some warts in it, whatever. We were like, we're into it. This just feels like A Way Out walked so this could sprint. It's like this was like such a massive.
I mean, when we talked about Hazelight's potential of this, like we saw this as a possibility, but I kind of expected it to be at least another game in between and not
right.
Like I expected the next game to be improved if they continue down this road, but this was a much bigger improvement than I expected.
Right. And it's from, obviously the story is very charming. I love the characters. I mean, there's like some of the writing could definitely be kind of cringy, but a lot of the jokes hit and it was very charming. That's great and everything. But the gameplay was just like a masterclass.
Yep.
In the sense of like the mechanics that we would get were so different from each other and so different from video games that it would always like take us a second to be like, what are we doing now? But then like we were never really that stumped, and it was always so satisfying when it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. And like sometimes I'm like, how did y'all even come up with this being a gameplay mechanic with some of these?
Well, Darby and I get them joking for our stream. Like we streamed the whole thing. We're like, no idea was turned down.
I mean, you could just feel the developers having fun making this game. It was like infectious almost. It's like it was so over the top in the best possible way, but not over the top in just there's a bunch of crazy things going on screen. It's like what you're actually doing was satisfying. That's what I love about this game is you're doing the satisfying thing. It's not just we're gonna be flashy. It's like we're gonna focus on the things that you're doing are fun and unique and awesome.
Yep. Yeah, I don't want to go too deep into them here, just probably because time and anyone who hasn't played it wants them to experience it, because that's just kind of the fun, like seeing something and being like, what is this? And when us kind of messing around when we got something, it's like, oh, this is what it does. Oh, this is what happens when we use them together.
Yep. It was just like, even like I think the game was maybe a little too long, and I think there was like some sections at the end that like slightly overstayed their welcome, but that was just from quantity of things. Nothing was ever like a dull mechanic that like was not interesting. Like everything was so different from each other, and like when you're at the end and you think about some of the things we did at the beginning, it's like, damn, this game has worn so many hats, but it did all of them beautifully. I mean, this is like a must play, I think, and it's like even other games from the last few years that I would rate higher than this in my personal list, I'm more impressed by this game than almost any game I've played in many, many years. Yeah. Because it's not really iterative of many things. Like it has cool callbacks to like it definitely like pays respect to other like video games, and like it has those things of like being nostalgic for video games, but for every one of those, like it has so many ideas that I've just never seen before that I think it's just a fucking blast. It's just so much fun.
Like you said, obviously it takes some things for some of this stuff because the lack of the co-op games that aren't like, and a lot of co-op games odds are you guys are doing, the two people are doing very similar things, if not the exact same thing, but together. Yeah. It's like it works together,
and it moves at such a great clip. Like I am honestly so fucking glad this game didn't have collectibles, breakable pots, shit like that.
Well,
it would have hurt it. It needed to. It was just like boom, boom, boom. We're going. Every time there's a cool mechanic, it's really cool, and then it stops right when it's like. It hit its climax and it's like boom, done, on.
Yep.
And it's like
the closest thing to collectible were the mini games,
which was awesome. Yeah, those are like so like because each one of those had a whole nother like cool mechanic. You know, it didn't have the mindless shit that I think a lot of games have, and especially for this co-op game, like. If it had that, if we were every single time we got to an area, it's like, okay, let's go break the pots. I think this game would have lost a whole 2 points almost. Like, I just think it would be the wrong game for that. Not that can be good in some other things, but like, I'm so glad we just got that out of our head. It's just like, nope, this is just a roller coaster ride. Let's go.
Yep.
And it was paced beautifully. Like, I'm so fucking impressed with this game. I mean, I will be raving about this again at the end of the year. Like, count on it. I'm honestly like, there's a chance that this stays my game of the year at the end. We'll see. You know, it definitely has a shot.
Unfortunately, there's one game that
for Jeff it has no shot. For me, it has a shot.
The only shot for me is if Psychonauts 2 disappoints. Let's be honest.
We don't want to think about that future.
Well, Dari, you mentioned roller coasters. Let me tell you about the roller coaster ride of Life is Strange 2, but not really too much of it because spoilers and time and all that kind of stuff. But I have finished Life is Strange 2. I am now ready for Life is Strange 2 True Colors. Don't need to get that off my back. And Dari, this is very good. Very, very good.
Really glad to hear.
You really care for these brothers and their struggle and just everything. And, you know, there's some, you know, there was talk about, will the road trip work out? I honestly love the fact that, you know, we were just going for those meeting all these different people. And it's just kind of like a theme of this game. Like, there are a lot of bad people in the world, but there's also all these great people that just are good to each other and all that. And like in every episode you just meet these wonderful people that are great to these kids.
That's good. I mean, okay, I know that first episode definitely went hard in the world sucks and everything's bad.
It does that kind of throughout, but I think it kind of balances the kind of show. Not everything like the world's not necessarily just completely good or completely bad.
Yeah, and no, I'm sure you appreciate the good people so much more.
Because, and it. You know, we had that in the first episode. We played, you know, what happened to the gas station in the first episode. We've done that for years because we played it when it came out. But I was just continually impressed, like, where they went with some of the stuff because of a couple of Latino boys. And just in America doing all this kind of stuff. So everything involving that. And I was kind of, we talked about it a little off camera a couple of days ago where originally we were like, with the gas station owner, like, yeah, this is kind of true, but maybe a little over the top. I still believe over the top, but after the last couple of years, it's kind of like, this is a little more true.
After 2020 happened.
Yeah, and again, that was our reading on it as some white people.
Yeah, absolutely. Like anything with this, obviously, we do not have the full life experience.
But I'm glad with the places they went and all that, and I think it was a very, very satisfying story and all that.
Yeah, I'm very happy to hear that. I mean, that's what I heard from so many other people, but obviously you saying that makes me, it's like me and you definitely saw eye to eye with the Life is Strange thing, where it's like, that's not a game I would recommend to everyone, because I think there's a lot of people I know. Like, I think Jenny asked me something about, she's like, I heard about Life is Strange. I was like, don't play Life is Strange. You would hate Life is Strange. Like, she was like, oh yeah, really? I was like, it's like teen romance. And she's like, yep, you're right. Nope. I'm like, yeah, you would hate it. It's like, I know she would hate it, but like, I know that you appreciate that, and I see that, and like I could see so many things with Life is Strange too, and what I hear about it, it's like if they stick the landing on what they're trying to go for here, this could be something truly special.
Yeah, and I guess this will be my last general thing before we move on. Is I got my ending, so naturally I looked at the other ones to see what those were. And it's like, yeah, those are very different endings. As far as that, like, as far as what the very last series of cutscenes you see are for all of them. I think there are 4 total, and it's kind of interesting because obviously, like in a lot of these games, it's kind of based off your final choice in the game, but it's also, and I've mentioned it before, a couple things related to Daniel, which is your bond with him and where his morality is.
Right.
Like, as far as if you let him go loose with his powers and kind of be a little menace, some endings are completely locked off from you. Like, even like the final choice you make, he will not do what you want. And that will influence it, like, one way or the other.
Right.
And just in the different ways and go. So I know I'm being vague, but I don't want to spoil it for you. But it's just kind of interesting, and like it kind of being subtle, and then at the, especially at some points at the end, how I saw how some things can play out, how it kind of culminates or whatever.
Right.
As far as how you've acted towards Daniel and how you've taught him throughout.
It sounds like it's trying to have a remedy for the thing that like seems inevitable but everyone hates with these story games, that it's like there's all these choices but the only one that feels like it matters at the end is the last one. But it sounds like
at least as far as the main endings, obviously the main, unfortunately in a lot of these games the last choice is the main defining one, but at least there's a little more nuance in this one compared to some other ones. This is kind of how you did throughout the game as far as the actual ending,
right?
Even if there's I think as far as I know 4 distinct endings you can get,
right?
At least this, the little numbers that add up throughout your playthrough that kind of help lead to your ending.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So
and,
So I need to get my ass on this, is what you're saying.
Do it, Darby. That way we'll both be ready for True Colors. We can get on that shit.
Where do you think? I mean, you don't have to like say like it could change all the time. I mean, what do you think this versus the first one? Because they seem so different. They seem very, very different.
It's so hard. It's been so long since Life is.
I can tell that they're different even without playing too. It's just like,
there's very different vibes and just kind of, man, honestly, that is tough. I might still say one maybe, but I can see myself flipping. This game's really good. Like,
I mean, it sounds like it's a thinker too. You maybe need to sit with, but it's like,
some people, we've talked about it, didn't like the way this direction went. I think this is worthy of the 2 thing for it's like being a sequel to Life is Strange again. It is very different.
It was bold, but it to go in a different direction like that. Like, it was obviously just the story they wanted to tell.
But like Life is Strange 1, it has heart. And that's what I need. And
it has
good characters and all that.
I'm a sucker for that. Like, that vibe of the first one. But hell yeah.
All right, let's get to that news.
You ready to kill all the good vibes?
No, it's
all the good vibes will die.
All right, Darby. Jingle, jingle, jingle. Gotta keep the streak.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about Activision-Blizzard. Yeah, I was going to read this, but from a timing standpoint,
I mean,
I kind of wanted to get it all out there, but.
Yeah, I understand. We don't have to. I mean, I think go read I think this Bloomberg article is like probably the thing that like sums everything up the most.
It's an article. Yeah, you just got to look at it. Probably Activision/Blizzard Bloomberg. It's an article by Maeve Alsup from Bloomberg Law. Pretty much it goes into. It says that Activision Blizzard is pretty much getting a lawsuit filed against them by state of California for their frat boy culture and how they treat female employees through various means, from sexual harassment, how they treated them as far as promotions, all that kind of stuff. It goes into detail of, just people sexually harassing these women, denying them promotions because they could get pregnant, telling them to get out of the lactation room so the men could hold a meeting, and just
getting drunk, crawling in their cubicles.
Yes, and the worst thing that I obviously have to mention is an employee committing suicide on a business trip after an interaction with a supervisor. And part of that was the men passed around nude pictures of her.
Yep. I mean, it's just the most heinous shit you could possibly imagine. And it's just, if it's not clear at this point that none of these people are going to change on their own, none of these companies, I mean, because this is not, like, this stuff's been happening, this stuff happens everywhere, and we've been seeing that time and time again. This is not a small company without a big spotlight on them. This is not some company kind of just operating off to the side, which is like a little fan base that would get like kind of mad, but no one really like notices. This is one of the biggest gaming companies, if not the biggest gaming company combined on planet Earth, with some of the most popular, most played IPs of all time dating back decades. And this shit goes on, and like a lot of this was not known, and a lot of this, and they get away with this. Like this type of like this is the has such a just unbelievably uncaring and just abusive cycle of torment for its workers at a lot of people's just dream job. This is World of Warcraft. This is Overwatch. This is Call of Duty. This is so many. Like, imagine that being your dream to go work here. You work your whole life, you finally get it, and then a lot of people said they had to quit.
Yep.
Because people made their life such hell. It wasn't the games. They loved working on the games. It was the goddamn people.
Yeah, even then, the people are like, you know, some of the people that spoke out, like, they love a lot of the people there and stuff. Like, it was just, unfortunately, uncomfortable number of the higher ups just kind of being involved in it or fostering it or just letting it slide.
That's the problem. It doesn't even take, like, the vast majority of people are probably great people. It doesn't take much. It takes the people in power being able to do whatever the fuck they want, and they know that there's not going to be any repercussions for it. And that's how, like, you're going to foster this type of environment. And it's like, it gets to the point where it's like they're bending over backwards to keep this environment going. It seems like it would make a lot more sense in a lot of ways to fix this, and your actual employees that are making the shit would probably work. You'd probably have a better operation if people didn't fucking hate coming in.
Yep.
But, like, that doesn't matter. It clearly doesn't matter. Even public pressure doesn't matter. We've seen Ubisoft. Nothing's changing. These things have come out. I mean, like, things can change, but it, like, just shining a spotlight in these things fucking clearly is not enough.
Yeah. So it does get, the thing that always comes up is like the only way to necessarily to kind of do change the vote with your wallet, and unfortunately they're never enough.
No, it's, I mean, it's such a fucking helpless thing. I mean, this is fucking America at this point. It's like there's the things, the shitty, awful, dystopian parts of our, like, economy and our, like capitalist kingdom that we've built are just so far gone that it's like the individual is powerless. It's a very incredibly helpless feeling. But the fact that, like, I mean, it's horrible. If you were a woman, I don't know why the hell you would want to get into this industry. And that's like awful. Like, that should not be, because it has nothing to do with the games, but it's this industry is just rotten to the core in a lot of ways.
Yeah, because like you mentioned, there's Ubisoft and their whole thing. We mentioned it, I guess, 2 weeks ago. I think when we recorded that. There was Jason Schreier's article talking about Assassin's Creed thing, where it's like, oh, but nothing's really changed despite all that hubbub last year,
right? About
it, and Insomniac's now having some stuff coming up against them, and there was some stuff from a former employee or developer at Insomniac. I think it was more a character designer, talking about Rivet and how Insomniac higher ups were very insistent on giving Rivet some pretty big hips and some big breasts to, appeal to people.
Because these people are, like, living in the fucking 1920s.
Yep. Luckily, even though that said developer has left Insomniac, he did win.
Yeah.
That argument.
But it's just because we're not living in an environment where this is unknown anymore. Like, some of these companies are being called out and still nothing changes.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's why, and the fact that this fucking statement, the statement that Activision made, to be like, you have the gall of someone is dead. Someone took their own life because of your actions. And you have the gall to say, oh, but these like regulations, this type of stuff, this is what's driving business away. This stuff
way out
is
of
like
California,
baseless or whatever, and they like made it look like someone fucking died.
Yep, and naturally they start. I mean, obviously that's the worst part, But they start with the whole thing of we value diversity and strive to foster workplace, blah 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 blah. And something that happened like a couple hours before we started recording, I'll just throw in here. Jason Schreier from Bloomberg posted that nearly 1,000 current former Activision-Blizzard employees have signed an open letter calling the company's response to the discrimination lawsuit abhorrent and insulting. We will not be silenced, we will not stand aside, and we will not give up.
Yeah.
Obviously, read the whole thing to get more details, but
it's incredibly courageous. I mean, it feels helpless. I mean, you do have to keep speaking out on this. It's not enough to just say we're speaking out on it and wipe your hands. It's like that obviously doesn't do enough, but that's what, I mean, so many of these people, they're already living on a razor's edge in game development anyway, and like how much they're making and everything. And clearly you see the people who do speak out get punished. So it's like, you're like, I know things are horrible, but if I speak out about it, I'm going to lose my job. And I moved all the way out here. And I'm
going to throw this out there just real quick. I assume we're on the same page for this. Some people are like, if it's so bad, they should leave and all that kind of stuff. People kind of, are on different sides of this. I don't think it should be on the employees to leave and lose a paycheck when they got families to feed.
Right.
That's not the way.
Yeah, number one, it's not that easy, even if you wanted to or whatever.
Well,
you moved all the way out here.
Even if Activision is a shit company and something, like they want to work in game development, and especially with this stuff, you don't know how it's going to work out. They could be blacklisted if they they speak out and leave the company.
They have so much less power than like these people. All they have to say is like, "Oh yeah, you don't want to work with her. She'll cause you nothing but problems."
Yeah.
That's it. Like, and because so many of them, it's this like horrible boys club, and I mean. And at the end of the day, it's like, no, the little kid who grew up playing WoW and like that was the cosplay, they loved it or whatever. They got into game development because of WoW. They absolutely adore this game, live and breathe it. They work their whole life up and get that job at Blizzard, and it's like dream come true. That person should not have to leave that job because their coworkers are going to pass around nude photos of them or are going to keep them a promotion because they're being pregnant, something like because of their sex, basically something they can't control at all. No, that person should never have to do that.
And if for people who are interested in, not necessarily interested, but want to read more stories, there are more that popped up like in the last 24 hours, and I read a couple of them. Like there was one that was talking about literally someone like putting his hand down her dress and the like and all that kind of stuff, and to make it and just all this other great horrible shit. And then it ends with the most horrifying thing is I got the best of it. There are girls that had it a lot worse.
Yeah,
it's like,
I mean, then please go listen to all the women in the industry. Obviously, have way more important things to say than me and Jeff ever could. Like Alana Pierce had a very harrowing but great, like a very important listen about this, because I mean it's at the point where it's like none of this is surprising. It really fucking should be, but it's not. And like I've seen like many women in the industry say I shouldn't feel this way, but I kind of really wish I could just leave. I think it was Janet Garcia said like sometimes I really wish that I could love something else. I love video games, it's been such a big part of my life, but there are many days that I wish that I could just be in any other industry. And like that's awful. I mean, is indescribably terrible. And this is why I mean I don't know how much more anyone who's mad about there being legal action like from the state of California, I don't know how much more evidence you need that this shit's not going to change with companies left to their own devices. Like the companies have to be shamed into changing. That doesn't work. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't. It's like, I don't know what the answer is, but trusting these mega corporations to fix their own problems that while they're raking in a bunch of money, and you're asking the people who are committing the crimes to be the ones to crack down on the crimes. It doesn't work.
No.
It does not. They don't care how many Twitter retweet tweets or whatever you get. It doesn't matter. So, like, you know.
No. And I don't think they'll change it if everyone just decides to stop buying their games ever. But
and these companies are just too damn big at that point. I mean, I wouldn't blame it. I feel disgusted right now, but it's like, this is the shitty, just helpless feeling you get when you are just like one of a million of many millions.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking horrible, but just especially if you are especially a cis white male in a company like this, you might think it's awkward and hard to speak out when something's happening. It is a little like awkward to like put yourself in there and like potentially get in a confrontation with someone because of that or whatever. Like, yeah, it's a little weird, a little awkward. You know what's 10 times harder? Being one of the people that has to deal with this every single day.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole hell of a lot harder. And I mean, I'm not saying like, I'm sure just statistically, me and you have been guilty of this too. We might not realize it, but we have absolutely been guilty of seeing something and not saying something. We all are. I don't even have to have an example. We have all done it. And that is something that's like, we have an obligation at this point from being able to be privileged enough, like we have to pay that back.
Yeah.
You cannot let that shit happen, you know? Yeah. Really tired of having these stories, but it's not going to stop anytime soon. It's just not. Simply not. So is this the first time ever we're gonna throw to EA to liven up the movie?
Yes. I was trying to come up with decide how witty I wanted to go with this. But yes, EA Play happened this past week. Let's have a positive EA discussion, shall we?
Let's do it. Dead Space, baby.
Yes, they had an EA Play, and I thought it was good.
It was good.
Get that Dead Space thing. It is finally announced. Not really much was shown other than even if they did outright say it after the fact, but the trailer made it clear to people who know Dead Space, this is a Dead Space 1 remake based on the literal writing on the wall and all that kind of stuff. And in their press release kind of saying this is going to be kind of a reimagining for us combat, and they mentioned story and stuff. So in that way, it's sounding like it's going to be an RE2 style remake. Not necessarily in the extreme of changing the type of game it necessarily is, but the general idea of its remake.
Yeah, and I still stand by what I've been saying this whole time. I'm super excited. I'm going to play the hell out of this day one. I'm really excited about it. I would be more excited for a just reboot or like, you know, a new story or whatever. I would be a little bit more excited if it wasn't.
Yeah. I think their idea of this is as far as, you know, doing it, because if they're going all this for a remake, it's not necessarily the type of one where it's like, oh, it just costs less to do this. I mean, I'm sure it does overall, but it's not a simple remaster.
No,
to do that. But I think what their mindset is, I don't know because I haven't played the Dead Space game. So I like 3 was a pretty it was shutting case ending or whatever. Like it was the end of the Isaac Clarke story or something. I don't know what happens, but I imagine it's like, okay, we need Isaac Clarke. This is the way they would do it.
I mean, and it might still, I mean, especially with them reimagining the story, it's probably going to be like a hybrid between a reboot and a remake. You know, it's going to be like somewhere.
It's kind of my expectation. That sounds like it'd be really cool.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and I think that it's like, it's just not as stark as Resident Evil 2. Like, it's not as stark of a modernization because the game's not as old. And it's like, in the barest sense, it's going to be the same type of game. It's going to be a third person shooting, you know, action horror game. But I think there are still even saying that it's like we're going to pretty much tread the same ground as Dead Space 1. I think there's a lot of like really cool elements that Dead Space was going for, and it worked really well back then, but probably on a replay from modern eyes, probably like not as, it's probably nowhere near as scary if you try to play Dead Space right now in 2021 as it was back then. There is so many things you could do in the modern era with Dead Space that would be like really, really cool.
I don't know if you saw this because it's one of those things that was kind of more of a hidden thing, but it is next gen only or current gen.
That's
the current
exciting
generation.
for like I would want Dead Space to be like pushing all the graphics. Sucks for in the sense that a lot of people don't have.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I said we don't know when this is coming out. It might be 2 years from now when we're a couple years into this console cycle.
Very true.
So. Yeah, I think that is very exciting. Yeah, I've mentioned it before. I'm getting more into the kind of game Dead Space is. Haven't played a Dead Space.
You would like Dead Space, like I've said before.
I'm debating now. Like, should I try it? Should I just go ahead and play the original one? I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish we knew how close this was.
Yeah, I mean they're not long yet. I think they were like roughly 10 hours each.
Yeah,
anyway.
I mean,
and now it's on Game Pass now.
Oh, is it? Okay, sweet,
because of the EA play thing.
I mean, I think, I mean, you could, I'm sure you could, you would have you would know what's changing when coming up there. And I still think, I mean, I haven't played it since I was a kid, basically, or since, around when it came out. But I think it has to hold up. I mean,
well, that's the thing when I saw a bunch of people say when the rumors of this remake was coming out, even after it was announced, it's like, do we need it? Because people were like, the first one still holds up well.
Yeah. So. But like Dead Space is a weird one for me to like, but I like really, there's just so many like cool. I really like the sci-fi. Like I like Alien. I like the movie Alien, and I like a lot of things there like very heavily inspired by Alien, and this definitely is that. But it's
and now I finally get like a PlayStation, a Smash Effect thing for PlayStation. Also, it's like I really like playing as Isaac Clarke in that game. It's like let's get into those games.
Yeah. If you replay it, I might replay it because
cool.
It was fun.
We should do that. Then we can talk about it. Apex Legends Emergence is the new expansion season thing or whatever. Showed off a new character. So the way they announced this stuff was weird.
Yeah.
So or at least related to this character, because they had the actual, I guess, reveal of him and his backstory, like story trailer thing, in the pre-show, and then had like a gameplay trailer during the regular. Like a cinematic gameplay trailer type thing in the regular show. And they're like, stay tuned for the regular gameplay trailer this upcoming Monday, which I guess was today.
Oh my God, just drop the thing.
That was from what I saw the most EA play from this whole thing.
The guy who stops it.
Yeah. And it's going back to the pre-show real quick. I don't know why these people have these pre-show things. The pre-show started the time they said the conference started.
Yeah.
And then it's like, EA Play actually starts in 15 minutes.
What is the benefit of this?
I think it's this is absolutely true. The reason they do it is they threw pretty much all their sports announcements and smaller stuff in there. It's so people don't get as mad about that stuff. If they have it under pre-show, people don't get as mad about it, which I think is the case in this.
It's like weird.
True here. Oh. But I don't have much to say about that as much as I do the rest of the other things, so let's move on. Lost in Random. We got a gameplay trailer for that. Did you see that, Darby?
Tim Burton ass.
Yeah. Well, did you see what they showed here?
I saw parts of it, but I did not see the whole thing.
So it has like a card system thing where you get cards and they have effects, which I don't know if they announced before. Was not expecting. It's interesting and weird.
I do not remember that. I mean, I don't really remember the first trailer a whole bunch, but I just remember the art style for the most part.
Yeah. I've been very interested in this game. It's coming out September 10th, unfortunately, which is the same day as Life is Strange and Tales of Arise.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, we've been through this. Like, God damn it. Why are we doing this? So
as I mentioned before, besides like some smaller like Nintendo things and maybe Shin Megami Tensei, I got nothing after that point, really. But yeah, it's a bummer.
Yes.
But at least the good news is, in a general sense, me and you should be able to try it with Game Pass.
Yeah,
for a little time thing.
But I mean, art style wise, it looks very, very, very cool. I mean, honestly, like it seems like all the EA originals have been some variation of good, like good to great. So
I'm because this is I think this is the Fez team. You remember that one?
Yeah.
And I think the reviews for that were pretty solid. Kind of like in A Way Out, even if A Way Out got a little more buzz. I'm hoping I think this is kind of like this could be like an It Takes Two style thing as far as the jump for them. Maybe not necessarily it's where we talk about it for Game of the Year for Lost in Random, but like, oh, this is a big jump for the studio and kind of more put their name on the map based on the way it looks, because art style and stuff and just the world looks really cool. It'll come down to that gameplay and
right. I wonder if it's EA just giving more budget or something, because it does seem like EA originals are starting to level up. It does seem like with each project they're getting. Like,
I think. More. I don't know how much Fez. Was it called Fez, right? Is that it? Fee.
Okay, Fez is a completely different.
That game. Is a completely different game, and that's why it was in my head.
And I was like, wow, it's like, and you were like, yeah, I think Fez was pretty well received. I was like, I think it was very well received. I think it was a very popular.
Sorry, people, I meant Fee.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that one was like more like a 7 out of 10. But
yeah. Like, it's something received.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. Like, it'd be a potential big step up for them, like a way out to It Takes Two and all that. And what I was getting at, I think they definitely giving more budget and everything, and obviously complete creative freedom, because at the very least, A Way Out sold well, like 3 million copies or something. So we're like, oh, if we get, this is good buzz for us, and they can actually sell pretty well. Okay, you guys get some more budget.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
Yeah. And obviously works out what It Takes Two, because it's one of the best review games of the year. Sold over 2 million copies at this point. I don't think a Lost in Random is going to get to that level necessarily, but I feel good about it.
It does got that Tim Burton ass stuff. And people love their Tim Burton.
It's true. It's a weird thing where I haven't really seen Tim Burton movies, but when people use a Tim Burton style, I'm usually into it.
I kind of hate Tim Burton movies, but I do like his art style.
Yeah.
Like, to a point, Yeah. But pretty much every Tim Burton movie I've ever seen, I've hated. So, yeah, sorry.
So I am very into this, and hopefully we'll talk about it at some point. Comes out. Knockout City Season 2. This is a game we've talked about potentially playing with our friends.
Yeah, I did not see this. Sorry.
So there wasn't crazy amount they showed. Well, they announced Season 2 has happened. They showed new outfits. The coolest thing that I want to give them props for with this is the new map that they're showing. It's movie based, so like at a movie theater.
I saw that in Kyle's delayed info.
Yes. So yeah, the way it works is like a movie is technically what's being played, and the whole stage changes to match that movie, whether it be like a bedroom or like an arena or something. And it's like it's a lot like Pokemon State. Well, I'm using Kyle's example. I think Pokemon Stadium from Smash Bros. I'm like, this is really cool.
That is cool content, and I agree with Kyle where he's like, why doesn't more like multiplayer games do this? It's like. And I think these multiplayer like arena based things are becoming more popular, so I hope we start to see people like have more creative ideas like that to mix it up, because like that is really cool. It's like ever changing, like everything kind of falls down and comes back up like Pokemon Stadium. It's cool.
It's crazy to see how good Knockout City's doing, considering where they were at when we saw whatever that trailer was.
Oh, that trailer was one of the worst.
We're like, oh, this is not going to do well, is it?
And I haven't heard about Knockout City in a long time, like ever since that first bit. But hopefully, I mean, I imagine it's at least. You don't get to that. You usually don't get to that player base and drop off completely.
Well, like, and it's also to like relative to expectations, because it's technically an EA original thing or whatever. Or
so that might actually be the most popular one outside of
So assuming Lost in Random is as good as it looks and does well, they'll be on a roll as far as that whole thing goes. So neat. And finally, the thing that I'm surprisingly really liked how it looked is Battlefield Portal, or it's Battlefield 2042 Portal. One of those. Portal.
It's a Portal crossover with Battlefield.
Yes.
There's two things to talk about. Number one, I think this trailer was just really, really good. Yeah. I think it had because it had the perfect mix of it was like it had Battlefield like super high budget cutscene like stuff that just like looks very serious, but then like as you pay attention more and more, you're like, oh, there's some really wacky stuff going on in here, and then it finally culminates with all the soldiers looking, they have defibrillators and they're like but it never stops looking high budget, which is like it's just a funny juxtaposition. And then also I want to say I think the concept of this is really smart for a mode for this game, because I think part of the fun, I think they're finally starting. I think they're finally coming down to where they should have gotten to a while ago with Battlefield, and they're like, we just need to make this fun above all.
Yes,
like fun before the seriousness or whatever. It just needs to be, because like Battlefield, like whenever I've heard people talk about Battlefield, it's always been, I jumped out of a plane, shot another guy, jumped in his plane, crashed. I did this crazy wacky bullshit. But then you look at Battlefield trailers and it's like, this just looks like a serious shooter campaign thing. Like, where's the wackiness that people are talking about? It finally seems like they're leaning.
Yeah, I've kind of say this, but the more I kind of say it, the more I'm like, this is probably the most interested I've been in these military shooters ever. Like, I'm not buying a day one or anything, but again, with the Game Pass EA Play or whatever it's called, me and you can at least try it for 10-ish hours, whatever it is.
I guess explain what it is, because I realized never actually said what it is. Battlefield Portal.
Oh, so it's pretty much people create their own mode kind of thing. You can't like do crazy stuff like create things and add it in there, but you can use the tools that EA Battlefield team has given you, and using a bunch of maps, weapons, and soldier types from a couple of the other past games, and pretty much make your own crazy modes, like knives against defibrillators.
Yeah.
And doing all this other crazy stuff and go crazy with it.
And like you can have like a bunch of World War II soldiers face like a small amount of modern day soldiers.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah.
Or you can make I think I saw this, you can make it World War II soldiers against a bunch of like little drone things.
yeah. Like just the wacky ass shit, you know.
Yes, I think that's very smart, because since it'll be a continuous stream of content to get people interested in playing it, like give reason people to keep playing. And it also appeals to nostalgia by having maps and stuff from previous games.
Right. And I think Easy Allies, I think one of them said this, it's kind of the perfect level of thing where they can put this out there, and if it's like mildly popular, then it's like, okay, this was a cool little mode for 2042, like in addition to all the other stuff. Cool thing or whatever. Yeah. But if it takes off, I think you also have the chance to be like, all right, now let's divert some resources over here and just like keep putting things into this, potentially even spin it off into its own thing. Like, I think either way, it's a win. You know, like I think that it doesn't feel like they're like, we're putting all our chips in on Portal. It just feels like, okay, we don't have the campaign, which like we need to add something else to like make the package feel more full. And I think this is like I'm more interested in this than the campaign. I would be. I think this is
I honestly, I feel like, you know, people, and I understand it, you know, when I'm saying this, people are upset about the campaign, but that seems to be a relatively small thing in general, like as far as people that would not buy it. So they could have just pushed it out with just the multiplayer, the way it looked, and it'd do well, I think. Yeah. But this is obviously like, hey, let's give the players this. They'll love it, or probably love it, or like you said, even if it doesn't take off, it's like, you know, okay.
Yeah.
It's at least a good kind of goodwill thing, and looks good for us.
I agree.
Yep.
I think it seems cool.
Okay, Dari, we're jumping from one mega corporation to another. Let's talk about Ubisoft.
Oh boy.
I know they're your favorite.
I just love them, you know.
Yeah. So we gotta. Oh man, I forgot to put the. Okay. I'm going. We'll talk about Sea of Thieves. We don't need to talk about Tom Clancy X Defiant.
No, we don't. Yeah. I give no shits.
Okay, I'm okay with that. Okay, the stuff that we're talking about comes from an article from Ethan Gotch from Kotaku talking about Sea of Thieves. The gist of the story is,
no, you did it again. It's not Sea of Thieves.
Skull and Bones.
All right, carry on.
Yeah, Skull and Bones. Been development since 2013. You know, I don't know if you called Darby. It was originally supposed to come out in 2018.
Yeah. Oof.
It's gotten delayed like 5 times since then, like annually.
And apparently it was delayed before then.
Yeah. It is now scheduled for March 2023, and the story pretty much comes down to they are way past their budget. They went past it forever ago. They're like at 120 million or something.
It's been 8 years in development.
Yes, and it is apparently one of the worst managed games ever. There is no cohesive vision throughout this whole thing, and when comparing it, like talking to other people, like comparing it to like Rockstar or Take-Two and like other big developers, like this game would have been canceled 10 times over. But they apparently can't because of a deal with the Singapore government.
Yeah, apparently like legally cannot cancel the game because of some deal they made. I mean, like, this is just kind of like the final boss of bad video game management. It's like, you really start to get to the point where it's like, how do some of these people get these jobs? Because it just seems like there's so much just poor management. And I get that it's hard. Like, it's definitely hard. But, like, when you hear, like, some Cyberpunk, some of this, it's just, like, there's some things where it's, like, why do you start doing the thing before you know what the thing's gonna be? It's like, you know, like, games are too fucking big to be like, yeah, go make a bunch of ships, make a bunch of assets. Oh, never mind.
Well, you were doing that. Allies talking about this game was originally being made because they had the assets.
Yeah,
but now it's like they made the assets 10 times over. It's straight away.
And like I think Isla was talking about the sunk cost fallacy. It was like you make 50% of a game, you scrap it. You make 50% of a game, you scrap it, and it's like we've made so much of a game. Like we put so much time in this game, we have to just see it through. So you make 50% again, then you scrap it. You make 50% again, then you scrap it. You've made 200% of a game. You could have made 2 games with this amount of like manpower. You could have made so much more money if you had just scrapped it at the 100% and made something else.
You know what? I was completely right with that percentage because they've been developing this game for 8 years, and if you 4-year development cycles, you know, roughly seems to be the average in a lot of games. Yes, they could have made 2 games.
2 games. It's like at some point you just gotta cut your losses, my man.
Yeah, but again, apparently they can't.
Yeah, which is its own horrible management.
Yep.
Just Jesus Christ, I don't know. I again say if this game gets an 8 or above, like,
it's
holy hell. It's like, what a turnaround story. What a comeback.
Yep. No matter what it gets, it'll be on Don's fantasy critic team. God bless that man.
I didn't even know that it's like they actually put 2023 on it.
Oh, they put a thing on it like every year or something.
I know, but like,
because
I just figured that they just pushed it to 2022. I didn't know they're already right now saying 2023.
Well, it's kind of before March 2023. So then it's like, oh, this is like by the end of the fiscal year. Sorry if I didn't make that clear.
No, sorry. No, I probably wasn't paying attention.
So just by the end of that fiscal year, pretty much.
Okay.
So. All right, Darby, we don't need to spend a crazy amount of time on this one because it is kind of old news. We can just do our quick and dirty thoughts on the Steam Deck. We didn't have a podcast last week. We didn't talk about it. This is big. New hardware, new handheld from Valve. This is the Switch Pro.
It basically is.
It doesn't play with
basically is.
Unless you do some illegal shit with it, which people will.
Wink, wink. Wink, wink. And I think it's very impressive. I think it's very interesting. It's very cool. It's something that like I like would, you know, if I was in Vegas betting, like this is not a safe bet. This is like I don't really know how this will go. I could see this really blowing up and being a crazy big thing, or I could seeing it being like a very tech like super mega nerd product that doesn't sell a whole lot but people love and then kind of gets forgotten about, but there's a contingent of people that love it. I could see it going either way.
Yeah. I feel like, and I think there were reports where or at least like maybe Valve straight up said, like during an interview or something, yeah, they're taking some losses, especially with that initial one, because the lowest price point is $400, which is only $50 more than the Switch OLED edition.
Yeah.
Which the drawback of this is it only has like 64 gigs of memory.
Yeah, that's the thing about this is like if you get like I would never advise someone to get that lowest thing because you're gonna have to get like a $100 SD card at the minimum, probably more than $100, and at some point you're gonna be paying close to what you're paying for the
which I think also has a slightly better hardware in it anyway, besides the memory.
Like,
so
that bottom tier would just be, I think, is a dumb purchase because like. It's 64 gigs. That's one fucking game when you're talking about the type of games that you're putting on this, because you can put your whole Steam library on this game, on this thing. So like, yeah, I think it is expensive for mass appeal. I think it's expensive, but it's obviously, like you said, it should be even more expensive for like the meat that's in it.
Yeah, and as far as what it is, like I look at it's like I kind of want this. I'm not getting it, at least not anytime soon.
Yeah, if someone handed it to me, I would be stoked. I'd be like, hell yeah, let's go.
This might be a purchase for me down the line once I kind of recover from the cost of my Oculus Quest 2 and PS5.
Yeah.
And actually seeing how the hardware is and all that kind of stuff. If it's like, oh, this one's really well and stuff, that would be a good thing. Just seeing impressions of it, like that'll make me want it because I enjoy some of the ways that I can play my Switch. This would be perfect if I could play my PC library on it.
I mean, no, if someone handed this thing to me, my Switch would go into a drawer until a Nintendo game comes out, and that would be literally the only time it's brought out. I'd have no point. So I mean, that alone shows you there is a market for this in a sense, because like, literally, this would be all I play outside of the Mario and Zeldas and the Metroids and stuff. Yeah. Like the games that force me to play the Switch would be the only times I play the Switch, because this thing would just be objectively better.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have to be like, fucking Monster Hunter Stories looks bad on your system. How? It's like you rectify that type of thing. I think this almost moves the goalpost up, because then I think this thing is going to have the promise of play anything, and there's going to be some things that make this thing cook or something. It's like, I don't know. Like I'm very interested to see how this goes in practice when someone's playing like the craziest high-end shit, because it's still it's not really like a PC that you can modulate and do all this stuff. It is a thing, it's almost like it's like a console basically in that sense.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting. I feel like I'm about to say something, but I forgot. Oh yeah, how do you feel about the button layout and all that kind of stuff on it?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it looks kind of ugly, but in the grand scheme of things, aesthetics of the game console just doesn't mean nearly as much to me as it seems to me for a lot of other people. I think it looks weird, but I have a feeling that like if I held it, I'd probably be like, oh, okay, this makes sense.
There's little touchpad things on. And it sounds like because when this was announced, IGN and a couple other people were like, we were able to test it, and they're like, we had the same reaction to you with the way it looked. It feels better than it looks. That's
what I would just assume. Yeah. I mean, I had the
Valve not stupid.
Yeah,
they tested the shit
right
for hours upon hours.
Yes, so I agree.
Crazy tech. And the timing of the announcement was hilarious. So, like an hour before the OLED went on, the pre-order started.
I thought you were going to say it was the even funnier thing was the same day Elgato released the Stream Deck. Like, it was like, like literally the same day. So
that too.
There was the Steam Deck and the Stream Deck. And I'm sure Elgato was like, oh, God. What?
Fuck you, Valve. No more being able to stream Valve stuff.
And then the same week or the week after, Gold Dick and Guilty Gear Strive.
Hey, he comes down a couple days, doesn't he?
He looks crazy. That's all I know.
Yeah. I think he comes out on Thursday.
So he's waving that alien around.
Yep. All right, Darby. Time to talk about our favorite other giant corporation, Netflix. We're just talking about giant corporations today, aren't we?
America!
Fuck yeah! So, Darby, Netflix seems to be getting into games.
Stay out, save yourself. Run while you still can.
This started with Netflix hiring former video game executive Mike Verdu to be vice president of game development. And then people data mined the Netflix app, and there's some potential collab stuff with Sony in there, like Ghost of Tsushima stuff was selling there, and like a picture of the controller.
What does it mean?
Oh, and then they came out and said, yes, we're obviously working on games, look at the hire, and we will start with mobile games or doing stuff on mobile.
That's the baby shoes. That's the easy mode. What does it mean, Jeff?
I think what it means, they are trying to, or the plan is to probably at some point literally become the Netflix of games.
Yeah. I mean, but do you think this means just they're gonna have native inbuilt streaming of these games in like a PlayStation Now xCloud type of thing, where someone who just has Netflix and a controller but doesn't have a big console or whatever can play some games in just streaming through Netflix? That's what I'm kind of assuming. But
that's what I'm kind of assuming too. At the very least, that's obviously going to be an option. Whether they do allow downloads for stuff, as that will be mainly seen. There's obviously the goal where you're like, we have the Netflix app on our TV and we're just able to play. Whatever.
That's what I don't think it's going to be downloads because like. You would have to sell a box for that, which kind of defeats the purpose of Netflix.
No, you're 100% right. Yeah, I didn't think of that.
Like no smart TV is going to have 100 gigs of storage.
No, you're right.
Not right now. Yeah.
No, that's 100% what they're going for.
Yeah. Which, I mean, obviously it's not going to be for us, but I do think there are some casual audiences that like can't afford a PS5 or something who could maybe do that. I mean, there's also xCloud. Seems like maybe a better solution in some ways, but it's like,
well, at the very least, like, I guess we'll see what direction they go with games and everything. If they have stuff I'm interested in, I mean, I have a Netflix subscription, so unless I have to pay significantly more or something,
for the free, the free aspect with the subscription is definitely something to consider.
Yeah,
very interesting to see like Sony getting in on this. I mean, we've seen Sony is starting to put some of these games on PC, so maybe we shouldn't be that surprised that it's like, maybe they're just going to be more in the mindset of put their shit on everything. I
don't know. Yeah, maybe instead of just going full on a PlayStation now, they're like, we'll just team up with Netflix. Take that. Suck at Xbox.
Yeah, it would be kind of weird. They're putting it on Netflix's subscription service when they technically still have.
Oh wait, sorry. I'm sorry. I gotta go back to the Steam Deck thing real quick.
Okay.
Vita 2 lives. We can play Sony games.
We did it.
You can play Horizon and Death Stranding
we
natively.
Did it, everyone. We did
and
it.
Microsoft games.
We resurrected them.
It's someone I saw something someone said. It's like, oh yeah, you can play Microsoft games on handheld now with Steam Deck.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
you can play everything.
You can play everything.
You can play Honey Pop and Nekopara on the go in public.
I can already play Nekopara on my Switch. Okay,
in the church where everyone can see you in front of God and everyone.
I turn it up during the volume up during the sex scenes.
Oh Lord!
All right, Darby. I guess we'll move on to the impetus. So yeah, let's get through it, Darby. For hardware stuff. The Xbox Series, in general, was the best-selling hardware platform in dollar sales for the month of June, and Switch was led in units. June dollar sales for the Xbox console set a new record for the Xbox platform, best in the previous high set in June 2011. Let's see. PlayStation 5 remains the fastest unit-selling console in U.S. history through 8 months of the market, excluding portables. So let's get down that list, Darby. Number 1. What do you think it is, Darby? What big game happened in June?
I'm always so bad at this.
I know, that's why it's fun.
Mass Effect was last month, right?
Yes. We'll go ahead and okay. Yeah. Mass Effect's nowhere near the top. It's still on the list, but at that point, I'm not going to have you guessing anymore.
Let's just plow through.
Okay. Number 1, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart.
Hey, we like to see that.
And for extra details, blah, 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 it achieved the highest launch month dollar sales of any title in franchise history. Launch month dollar sales more than doubled those of the previous high set by Ratchet and Clank in April 2016. More than double, Darby.
Even with it being an exclusive.
Yeah, it's a PS5 on a much lower thing.
No, yeah.
I mean, since the dollar stuff, it does get a slight edge because it's 70 compared to 60, but that's not like a too much.
Yeah. Still.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Number 2, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, jumped up from number 4. Number 3, another new game, Mario Golf Super Rush. Yep. Launch month dollar sales were the highest ever achieved by a Mario Golf game. The previous high was set by Mario Golf Toadstool Tour, which launched for the Nintendo GameCube in July 2003. Let's see. 4, MLB The Show 21, hanging in there. Number 5, Scarlet Nexus.
Wow.
I think that's pretty good for that game.
Yeah.
Anime lives.
Can't stop it.
Can't stop, won't stop. Number 6, dropping down from the number 1, Resident Evil Village.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty good.
Respectable. Yep.
Number 7, staying at number 7, Mario Kart 8. 8, Minecraft. 9, Spider-Man Miles Morales. 10, Mortal Kombat 11. We have a little more news about that later on. Related to that. 11, Animal Crossing New Horizons. 12, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019. 13, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. 14, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. 15, Super Mario 3D World. 16, Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Jumping up from 51 to number 17, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2.
Must have gone on sale.
Well, the Switch game was the Switch version was released.
Okay, yeah, that's it.
Yep. I think the same thing happened with Crash, I believe, if I remember correctly. Yeah. 18, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. 19, Pokemon Sword and Shield. And jumping up from 36 to 20, Sea of Thieves.
Hey, yes.
Not Skull and Bones.
That Jack Sparrow bump.
Oh, yeah, that is definitely it.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we're on top 10 for the year so far real quick. Number 1, Call of Duty. Black Ops Cold War, sorry. Number 2, Resident Evil Village. 3, MLB The Show 21. 4, Super Mario 3D World. 5, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. Number 6, Monster Hunter Rise. 7, Mario Kart 8. 8, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. 9, Outriders. And 10, Minecraft. Key. All right, Darby, you ready for other news?
Other news.
Got a couple things, Darby. We're keeping with sale time for the first couple of these.
Money keep on rolling.
I mentioned Mortal Kombat 11. Mortal Kombat 11 has sold over 12 million copies.
Damn.
The Mortal Kombat franchise has sold more than 73 million total, making it the highest selling fighting game franchise over Smash.
Okay, I was about to say, like, it wasn't already, but it's like, okay, yeah, Smash.
Smash had it barely, but because Mortal Kombat kind of releases more games, and I'm not putting it down here, but with the great success of X and 11, it put it over. Also, Ed Boon tweeted out earlier today, I believe, 11 is on pace to beating X as the best-selling Mortal Kombat
Do we know
game.
how much that one sold?
We probably do, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, because 12 million is a lot. But I mean, like, for a fighting game, especially. I mean, comparison, I'm sure compared to, like, normal fighters, it's like, you know, Smash is kind of a different beast or whatever. But compared to the Street Fighters, the Guilty Gears, the Dragon Balls, and everything, like, as far as, like, compared to their new games, I'm sure this is like far and away ahead.
For comparison, and these are kind of rough numbers to give you a general idea. I think Street Fighter, Tekken, and Dragon Ball Fighters, Street Fighter 5, Tekken 7, and Fighters all roughly around let's say the 5-7 million mark.
Yeah, that's what I would think. This is like double, or more than double. It's crazy.
And this is a more recent release than all those.
Wow.
Yeah.
One of those has fucking Dragon Ball in it.
It's true. It does have anime on its side.
Yeah.
Speaking of anime, we also have Death Stranding sales. It sold over 5 million as of March 2021.
For how fucking weird that game is, that's a win.
Yep. That's a win for anime. Speaking of anime, Doki Doki Literature Club Plus has sold over 500,000 in 2 weeks.
Fuck yeah, I'm one of them.
You got it?
Yep. Even if I never play it, which I probably will go play the side stuff, I just have to support them with money.
I probably am at some point. They had this collector's edition. There was like $50 that I've been looking like, should I just get it? And then we just put the little girls up front. They'd be like little acrylic figures. I might just go ahead and do that.
That'd be awesome. It was one of those, like, that game was completely free, and it was like one of the most unique. I mean, like, I love that game. I really think it's one of the craziest, coolest games. Like, in complete antithesis of Huber, who said that he doesn't like meta stuff. I love meta shit.
You know,
I love that shit. And this game is so cool. So I was like, I adore this game, and I've told everyone to play it, but like I've never given it any money. I was like, yes, I'll give you.
That's my thinking. I was planning on getting it at some point. Yeah, I was debating, like, just go ahead and get the digital thing or get that physical thing. I think if it's still available, I'll hop on that physical thing tonight.
Yeah.
The support the dev. But what I was gonna say, as far as the actual standalone for this, because like you said, this is a free game at this point. It is, you can still get it for free. Right. Not the plus edition, but the regular edition. Right. I think 500,000 for this is good in 2 weeks.
Especially when, like, a lot of this is like, it's not offering a whole hell of a lot, but it was more. I think there, and I saw a lot of other people that almost, like me, treated this like a donation box.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I am very interested in playing the side stuff that was added, but it was also just like, please make another game. Please, please make more shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's very good.
Yeah. And especially that's just for, that team. It's a pretty good, like, money thing after all this time. I guess Doki Doki came out 2017.
Sounds right.
I think that was our first year.
I think so.
So that's
Either
a good.
That or 2018, but it was, yeah.
That's a good little. No, it's definitely 2017 because you had it pretty high, and in 2018 our lists were pretty much the exact same.
True.
And you did not have it as low as 7. That's for sure.
True.
So that's a very good like income boost like this far after launch.
Yes. I hope, yeah.
And again, like I said, I'm happy for that team. Darby, we talked about Netflix and them going to video games. Something else that has become apparent recently is they like making video game adaptations, or at least announcing them.
God, I'm reading this.
Pokemon is apparently, according to Variety, getting a live action adaptation from Lucifer co-showrunner and executive producer Joe Henderson.
I guess they made Detective Pikachu, so I guess they've already done live action Pokemon.
Yeah. So
I mean,
the thing is, people like Lucifer, so I got nothing. Like, my reaction to this has nothing to do with the showrunner. If anything, people like him, so okay, great. But the thing that worries me about this, like, I'll eat this up because I'm a fucking scrub. And yeah, I get some joy out of seeing that live action stuff. The thing that potentially worries me is that was a movie. This is gonna be a TV show.
Yeah.
Like, and not like, and there were. I think the stuff in the Pokemon looked good in Detective Pikachu, but not like the best they could be. Obviously, this should
probably
look not
worse.
as good.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure. So, and I'm curious what story they would tell with this. I hope it's not like a continuation of Detective Pikachu. Just let that live as it is.
Yeah.
What could be cool, they need a crazy budget for this. Have a live adaptation. Well, shout out to Tim Geddes who put this in my mind. Kind of funny. An adaptation of the Pokemon Adventures manga, which is fucked up. It's fucked up Pokemon where people actually die and shit. You see Pokemon get cut in half at points.
Oh fuck! Shit.
It gets pretty hardcore in some places. So
shit.
That'd be cool.
I don't know if Nintendo would let it happen, but we'll see.
Hey, Nintendo wouldn't be involved in this. That'd be Pokemon Company, baby.
That is true. And they have no morals.
That is something people need to remember with this stuff when they say, oh, Nintendo, in relation to Pokemon decisions. Yeah. They don't have much.
Yeah,
the most they control is the fact that it's going on Nintendo hardware only.
Right.
Yeah. And we'll let stuff on mobile, I guess. Video game music was played at the Olympics opening ceremony, Darby.
Looks like we made it.
Did you see the track listing for that?
I did. I still need to watch the opening ceremony.
Yeah, I haven't done it either, but just some highlights. Well, they played Dragon Quest music. They played Final Fantasy music.
Yeah.
Tales.
That's a win.
That's a win. It was Soray's theme, though. I know how much you love Saray.
Yeah, that's less of a win.
Monster Hunter. Kingdom Hearts was there, and I appreciate...
shit, yeah.
It was all Hercules from the Hercules world.
That's
I appreciate that.
That's awesome.
Chrono Trigger, Sonic got a little in there. Nier Song of the Ancients. Let's go. That's a win for Nier has made it. Phantasy Star Soul Calibur. That was really dope.
We gotta watch these ceremonies. I was so excited about Japan having it. Mm-hmm.
It looks like, in particularly Square Enix, I don't know, wrote a check or something. I don't know how that works. They're like, please put our stuff
Square Enix gets whatever the hell they want, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Horizon's Aloy is coming to Genshin Impact for a limited time.
Milk it, send it everywhere. Genshin Impact makes a lot
win
of
for anime.
We're stealing your Western characters.
Yeah. That's a pretty cool little crossover thing. And it's one of those things I kind of appreciate where... For like a crossover, it's something in a different art style, like actually in the world.
Yeah, that's always
where they give the extra mile. Final thing, Tencent has acquired Sumo Group, which owns Sumo Digital, who has worked on Sackboy: A Big Adventure and Crackdown 3, and The Chinese Room, who's worked on Everybody's Gone to the Rapture and Dear Escher, and more at a $1.27 billion deal.
So basically, everyone is just putting on auditions to get hired by Tencent. Everyone who makes a game not for Tencent is just like, that's their pretense.
Yeah.
Game.
I mean, I do this podcast, so we can buff it.
Is this good enough to get noticed by Papa Tencent? I hope so.
I'm very curious because I don't. Easy Alice were kind of like this too. It's like, I don't know how it works when the stuff like, so I guess we probably won't get a Sackboy, a Big Adventure 2.
Probably not. But I mean, Tencent just buys things. It's like, yeah, you can keep doing whatever you want. You just have to pay us now. It's like, it's like, who knows? Like, they could still make a Sony game.
Yeah.
It's just everything is partially owned by Tencent. I think Sony is probably partially owned by Tencent at this point. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just.
That sounds like a joke, but I know you said it unironically.
No, I did.
And it's fair for you to say that unironically.
Oh, yeah, that was completely unironically. Yeah. There's a lot of big companies that they like partially own. They don't really have any say over, but they partially own,
Yep.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I got to end this really fast, so it's under 2 hours. All right, thank you so much. Had a great time. See you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.